Hello and good morning. This is Kelsey from Kels Reads Things at Anna Porter Public Library in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And I am here on this chilly Thursday morning to discuss with you Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. Please forgive me for that terrible rendering of her name.
Hi, I just wanted to let everyone know I accidentally mispronounced Amelia's name throughout this entire review. It is not Emilia, it's Emilia. Thank you so much for your patience.
So, Kingdom of the Wicked is a young adult, dark fantasy story about witches and demons who end up working together. So, now I'm going to just kind of touch on the plot of this specific story. The story follows 18-year-old Emilia, who is a Straga, which means she is a witch that lives in secrecy with her family in the 19th century in Italy. She and her twin sister Vittoria have been warned about the dangers of the seven princes of hell since they were little girls and were given these necklaces by their grandmother and told to never, ever, under any circumstance, take these necklaces off. It is supposed to offer them protection and ward them from the supposed princes of hell. Unfortunately, one evening, Vittoria does not heed this warning not long after they are given the necklaces, and 10 years later, she is found dead by Emilia, brutally murdered by Emilia. They're 18, of course, at this time, but the story opens with them as children receiving their necklaces of protection, and then officially starts with Emilia's point of view when they are 18 years old. Shaken by the grief and loss of her sister, as well as by revenge and wanting to right the wrongs that happened to her, Emilia sets out to track down who is responsible for Vittoria's death. And without many options, Emilia conspires with, you bet it, a demon. In fact, one of the seven princes of hell, in order to track down the culprit, but he might also be on a mission that Emilia may know nothing about. However, together they work together to not only figure out who killed Vittoria, but who is responsible for killing multiple witches throughout Italy. That's kind of what the mystery is. The premise of the mystery in this story is that witches are dying left and right, and Emilia, as well as Wrath, cannot figure out who is responsible. Is it humans who are blinded by faith? Is it demon princes? Who could potentially be responsible? And that is the general mystery of Kingdom of the Wicked. Okay, so again, that was my general idea, general plot point of the story. Emilia has to eventually determine whether working with demons of hell was necessarily the most rational thinking, and she also has to determine what she's willing to pay in order not only to find out the truth of her twin's death, but to also, I guess, stand for justice. I guess stand up to, who is causing these horrific deaths. So overall, I have to say I was not impressed with this book. In fact, when I finished it, I wanted to go ahead and give it 3 stars just because, I put this much time and dedication to reading it, or I guess I should say I listened to the audiobook. However, it was a struggle. I'm not sure if it was the narrator herself. I think she did a good job in performing with what she had. It was just this character and her in our monologue really, I don't know how to say it any other way, it frustrated me and it annoyed me. And I think it's because nearly every decision that Emilia makes is like a huge red flag, and it's me in the background as a reader and or listener screaming, why would you make that decision? A lot of the consequences luckily didn't affect too much, but there were quite a few decisions that Emilia made that I don't think any rational person would have made. And because of that, she ends up getting in the craziest of situations. However, at the same time, I do try to take into consideration that she is suffering from extreme grief. That was her twin sister who died. Her twin sister. And, I mean, at the same time, I felt like the grief wasn't as touched on as much as I would have liked to have seen as a reader. So, because of that, some of her choices, in my opinion, just didn't make any sense. It was set in the 19th century in Palermo, specifically of Italy, but honestly, there was so little imagery in the book of what was happening. It was almost like you didn't even pick up on what the time period was supposed to be. There was so much description of food. I mean, I get it. Her family, I think I forgot to mention this, they run a restaurant in Italy, and that's great, but there was so much description of food, it made me hungry, and made me less focused on what was happening in the book. And there was just not enough description of the setting in general, in my opinion. Very little historical content was included in the book. So there were 7 princes of hell, but I could hardly tell any of them apart that we met. Hardly any of them, so that was annoying. The plotline in general, though it was good, the way it was written was so convoluted and kind of hard to keep up with. And I think part of that was, again, because I wasn't really a fan of Emilia herself. So there were times when I could hear myself, like, blocking her out, and I'm like, no, you're supposed to be paying attention to what she says. So maybe it's just I didn't like the main protagonist. As I mentioned, she didn't use a lot of constructive thinking throughout the novel. And that was more annoying because it was written from her point of view. Some of the twists, even though it was a mystery and even though the plotline was convoluted, were just so predictable. I wanted a dark, mysterious fantasy, and what I got was just, in my opinion, kind of a drawn-out retelling of a similar story that I've read again and again. For as intense as Emilia was, I found her a little bit too naive and too trusting at the same time. I'm just like, where are your priorities? You've been told to not trust princes of hell by your very wise, all-knowing grandmother since you were 8 years old. How is that not stuck? And even, like, the love interest, which you, I'm sure, have picked up on, is the demon. It kind of just felt like instant love to me. There really wasn't much of a build-up in their relationship. I could tell that she was trying to go the enemies to lovers trope, but there just wasn't enough context, I think, between these two characters to make that work. Or at least not enough that was for the readers to see. As I mentioned, the love interest, Wrath, he wasn't exactly wrathful, even though he's the Prince of Wrath in Hell. I found him to be kind of a cookie-cutter, dark, brooding character, but there really wasn't a lot about him that set him apart from other characters that have been written exactly like him. And I'm gonna just say it again, the lack of imagery was frustrating because Italy is a gorgeous place and I would love to have been, like, transformed into that area. Oh, that would have been amazing. So again, I liked the mystery concept. I liked that the plot line was a little bit convoluted, because normally if that's the case, it's because all of the strings are going to come together. But so many things were so obvious that the concept of the book was promising, but the execution was not the best that I've seen. Okay, so overall, that was my somewhat negative review of Kingdom of the Wicked. I, unfortunately, was not a fan and gave it 2 stars. Very rarely do I give a book that low of a rating. Typically, that means I don't plan on picking up any of the books that follow. Of course, that might change by this time next year. I'm always willing to usually give an author or a book another chance, but typically after about 2 books read by the same author and I don't like them, I usually move on from there. I'm also still currently reading City of Glass. I should be done with that hopefully by this weekend, as I'm about nearly 80% through, I think. I'm also still reading a rom-com and A Heart So Fierce and Broken. So I've only read maybe a chapter or two of that because I'm still trying to complete City of Glass before I move on to the prequel cities, The Infernal Instruments. I will let you all know my feelings of all these books in the time to come. Next week I will be doing a review of City of Ashes, which is the second book in the Mortal Instruments series. Gosh, that lady has so many series, and I forgot to mention that there are 4 series of hers that revolve around that universe. Mortal Instruments, The Infernal Devices, The Dark Artifices, and finally The Last Hours, and they all revolve around these like 4 or 5 families from the Shadowhunter world in different generations. Thanks so much for watching my book review today, and I look forward to discussing more exciting books with you in the future. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday.